Ravens hosting a divisional round game for the first time since then. 9.5-point home favorites. This line is shifted up since first half money and full game money is coming on Baltimore over the last couple days. So Houston around a touchdown or 2-possession dog, but interest has maybe gone in the Ravens direction of late. Total of 43.5 down from 45.5, where I bet it at a couple days ago with the weather concerns, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. You're looking at a wind chill of about 4 degrees. So keep that in mind. But this is a rematch of the week 1 Ravens double-digit win. I'm not taking too much away from that just because that was CJ Stroud's NFL debut. And I'm sure some of our listeners and viewers will be interested in backing Houston just because teams off a bye in the divisional round. If you're a Trents fan, we are not. Just putting that out there. 32-41-1. That's a 43.8% clip against the number since 2003 with teams off the bye. Ravens definitely fit that narrative, but to me, it's more so of a narrative. But like I mentioned, I'm taking the approach with a total. Bet the under. I would still bet it at 44 if you can find one. I think there are some, maybe a lone 44 on the board, just depending on where you're shopping. So whether you can grab that pregame or in-game, I would try to get under 44 or better. Stroud may end up backdooring this point spread, but I do expect him to struggle in the conditions. Houston averaging 3.9 points per game, fewer on the road this season. And you look at his turnover-worthy play rate going back to that Week 12 loss at the Jets, which correlates with Houston's poor performances on the road. 12.9% turnover-worthy play rate in that game. He got concussed late, but struggled throughout. And the Texans put up their season-low scoring output, I think around 6 points. So, like I mentioned, wins should be very strong at M&T Bank Stadium. And Baltimore, even though you've taken some shots at their defense, per their strength of schedule this season, have an elite pass defense, especially in zone coverage. Now, I know Stroud has dissected zone defenses this year, but pretty stout against man too. Bottom 10 dropback EPA allowed to opponents in man coverage, which is where Stroud struggles most. Also, Ravens league high 60 sacks, so not necessarily a high blitz rate or pressure rate, but they generate sacks. And Mike McDonald is one of the more creative defensive coordinators around. So Ravens off 2 weeks of prep. I think the defense sets up really well against Stroud in these conditions. And then Lamar Jackson typically would have a favorable matchup against a zone defense, which is what the Houston Texans present under DeMeco Ryans, allowing the 8th highest explosive play rate in the NFL through the air. But because of the conditions, I would expect Baltimore to maybe run more often than they normally would against a defense like this. Week 1, toss out those results from Baltimore's offensive statistical output just because they were kind of getting used to Todd Monken's scheme in their own right. But the Ravens have the 5th slowest adjusted pace in the NFL, so correlating with the under as well. Mo, any bets for you on Texans-Ravens?
Potentially. Not at this moment. I am definitely interested in the over at this point. I mean, it keeps dropping. I want to see if it continues to drop. Drops any lower, I'm probably going to have the over. I'd probably play the Texans at 10 as well. We'll see if that number appears, but I do share your concerns. I mean, it's an offense that's down to a couple of above par playmakers. I'm really worried what that's going to look like against a sharp Ravens defensive brain trust that you have to respect. Because like I said, I'm not that impressed with this defensive roster. I think the coaching has done a really good job there. So, nothing for me yet on the side or total. I do like Lamar Jackson under 53.5 was the number I got. I believe it's 52.5 now. I still think that's fine. His rushing prop, I think it sets up well for him to go under in this game for a lot of factors. Like you already brought one up. Texans playing a ton of zone. Should be eyes on the quarterback pretty much all the time here. They were 8th most in zone rate, I believe, near the end of the season. Not sure how that carried over for the last couple of weeks, but probably didn't change that much. They, for the most part, did a fine job limiting opposing quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson was really the only one who got off on them. I mean, I think it's more understandable when it's a quarterback you have nothing scouting wise for pretty much in that spot, his second career start. They did limit Kyler Murray. They did limit Lamar Jackson the first time they faced him. I think he ran for 35 yards only in that game. The Texans have fast linebackers. I mean, Cashman and Christian Harris are both like 4'4", 4'5" guys. They should be able to chase him down in the intermediate area, and I don't really expect Lamar to really push it with his legs that much. I know it's a playoff game, but they are 9.5-point favorites. I mean, if that line holds any water here, then I do like under his rushing total, and I did play that. He went under that quite a bit, especially in the late half of the season, like you said, when they started leaning more and more into their passing game. So it's a decent bet, I think.
Yeah, like your look for sure. And we'll have some more props later on from our guest, Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus, joining us after we break down our bets on the 4 divisional round games.